So let's have a lesson on this Sarabande by Kellner. You can just watch the video for free and pick up some ideas about Baroque music and about practicing new pieces. But if you want to pick up a copy of the music, there's a link for that underneath the video. It comes from my Easy Classical Guitar, Vol.2. So a Sarabande is a dance. It's in 3. Sometimes there's an emphasized second beat, but not always. In this case, I think you have a real strong feeling of the one in the first beat and the third beat. But nevertheless, most of the same things apply to this piece that apply to all the other pieces. You can practice the melody on its own in this piece. On the next Kellner piece, that won't be quite as possible. But on this one, you can still play a nice melody and make sure that you're shaping it really nicely. However, the overall texture together with the kind of gentle dance feeling to it will give it that Baroque character that you want in this particular case. The other piece by Kellner will be quite a bit faster, so take a nice slow tempo with this, very spacious, but just make sure that you're really holding on to all the notes and getting lots of sustain, and that you're connecting the sound all the time, because when you're at slower tempos especially, that connection of sound is the thing that will make it more magical or more special. I think we can just do a walkthrough of the piece. So we'll start off. Before you start this piece, you might want to just make sure you're feeling the beat already. 1, 2, 3. So that ornament, that grace note there, should be played as an 8th note. So it should be played F, E. So the F occurs on the beat. I know it doesn't look like that in the notation, but nevertheless, you can play that ornament just as an 8th note. So if I'm going 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, or if I'm counting 8th notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3. You might ask, well, why don't we just write it as 8th notes? And I think the main point there is that it is an ornament. You can play it in different ways as well. You could interpret it slightly differently, but it's not a primary note. It kind of signals that it's also a non-chord tone, that that F sharp is not part of the chord, it resolves to the E. So you want to kind of think of it as an ornament in order to play it with an accent and a resolution in that way, which you might not do if it wasn't an ornament. You could also leave the ornament out, which is really changes it then, right? Sorry. If I didn't write it as an ornament, you couldn't remove the ornament. So that's the way that we'll play those as 8th notes there. Carrying on from bar 3. if you add the ornaments in this piece, let's just talk about that. You can add any ornamentation you like in Baroque era, if it's kind of historically correct. But for today, we'll mainly just be adding some trills and mordents. So let's go over that. So you could do a trill here using the D from before as a suspension. So what we'll do is D, C sharp, D, C sharp. Kind of carries that D from the beat before into the bar as a non-chord tone. So the note we're doing a trill here on is the B, and we'll just do a C sharp, B, C sharp, B. You always want to end with the primary note. The note just before the chord there can act like a suspension once again. So some nice reflex-oriented slurs, and just making sure that you get some tension and dissonance, and then the resolution to the primary note, which is the whole point of the ornament. It sometimes increases the tension of that 5 chord before it resolves to the 1 chord that comes afterwards. It's always this game of tension and resolution. So second half, bar 9. There, I do prefer that fingering. You could use 3-2. You have plenty of time, so it's up to you, but I'm just kind of staying in position that whole time. That ornament there would just be like F sharp, E, F sharp, E. So on the repeat, you can add some extra ornamentation if you want, but by all means, leave the ornamentation out. The piece sounds just beautiful without it, but if you're interested, you can add some of the ones that I did. So this one here, I do a mordent. So D, C sharp, D. Just make sure that the ornament doesn't interfere with the pulse, right? You don't want any of these extra ornamentations to kind of interfere with the foundation of the piece, which is just the written notes. I do another mordent there on bar 12. That one is just G, F sharp, G. Another one here, D, C sharp, D. You could leave that D out at the end. 1, 2, 3. Or I leave it in just because it's a little plain without some extra resonance at the very end of that bar. So I'd probably recommend leaving it in on the when you end the piece. You could do something different. You could play a D chord or something like that. So the main thing in this piece is that you just want to have lots of sustain and nice phrasing, but all in the context of a gentle and relaxed pulse to make sure that the dance character is there. But all those things combined, especially the sustain and the pulse, will give it that kind of special character.